OK, well, let's talk a little bit more about Blinken's visit to the region again with Trita Parsi, who is the co-founder and executive vice president of the Quincy Institute, which is a US think tank. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. A warm welcome to you. So how should we read Antony Blinken's apparent green light for Israel to resume fighting? Because there seem to be some conditions attached this time, namely operating within the rules of war and allowing in humanitarian aid. Both these things, arguably or not, Israel seems to struggle with.
I think the Biden administration is faced with a tremendous amount of challenges right now because they have lost control over this policy. They are essentially being led by the Netanyahu government. They have objections to many aspects of what Netanyahu is doing, but they're not willing to put real pressure on the Israelis to abide by the conditions that the Biden administration say that they favor. And I think they're increasing the tone is getting a little bit sharper. And I don't think it's necessarily because of any clear objections from the Biden administration side itself, but rather because the global pressure on the United States, as well as domestic pressure on the Biden administration, is increasing and is going to increase even further if the Israelis start bombing Gaza again and go into southern Gaza, because it is likely going to be even bloodier than what we have seen in northern Gaza. So the Biden administration is losing control over the ability to be able to protect Israel from global pressure and global public opinion, but it has not yet been willing to put real pressure on the Israelis by essentially giving conditions for continued American support to Israel.
Now, while we're talking to you, we're looking at images of Palestinian detainees being released. They're being driven through Beitunia, close to Ramallah at the moment. I mean, prior to making this statement, Antony Blinken was also in Ramallah meeting Mahmoud Abbas. Where does Blinken's green light for Netanyahu to go after Hamas leave the Palestinian Authority? Because popularity for Hamas only seems to be growing every time there's a release like this.
Well, one of the fundamental problems here is that early on, the Israelis determined their objective as destroying Hamas, and the Biden administration supported it. Now, we have plenty of experience just in the last 2 decades showing that that is most likely an either unachievable objective or an objective that only can be achieved at a tremendously high civilian death rate, which simply is not going to be acceptable even for the Biden administration. So I think, again, we have these maximalist objectives that on a surface level perhaps makes some sense, but in reality are unachievable and then ends up leading to protracted warfare that only further destabilizes the situation, radicalizes the populations on both sides, and then pushes real peace, or at least even just a ceasefire, further and further away.
Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute. It's been really important and valuable to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining us.